What was Internet? Why did they build it? What was the goal? What information was held inside these guarded tombs? For centuries, historians and archaeologists have puzzled over the many mysteries of Internet. The prehistoric monument that took ancient builders an estimated 30 years to erect. It is composed of roughly 8,000 massive, monolithic buildings scattered across Earth. A complex series of underground tubes, metal towers piercing into the sky, and cryptic codes on the land. Found everywhere on Earth are mysterious structures left by a people who lived during what we now call the Information Age. No one doubts the existence of Internet, or the relics scattered around the world. They are there for all to see. Scientists have speculated about and demonstrated how it was built. The unanswered question remains not how it was built, but why? Why did a people, in the midst of their daily struggle to survive, feel the pull to move metals, rare earth minerals, cement, and cables miles over the landscape, even embedding light-bearing wires across vast bodies of water? In order to understand Internet, one must look to the events that led to its construction. What would become known as electricity signified the spiritual energies pregnant in the physical universe, the elixir of the world's soul, the spark of creation. The transformation of electrical current into a communicating medium represents, perhaps, the beginning of what we consider to be the Information Age. Just a few years after the first electronic telegraph message, two sisters proclaimed to the world that they had made contact with the spirit of a dead drifter named Mr. Splitfoot in their home in what was Hydesville, New York. They were tormented 4 months by phenomena ranging from light knocking to sounds so vibrant that the beds thrilled and shook. After a particularly violent outbreak of noise, one of the sisters bravely beseeched the entity to repeat the snaps of her fingers. Every snap was echoed by a knock. The spiritual telegraph was at last working. The sisters' method of communication with Mr. Splitfoot was directly modeled after the code of the telegraph. 1 knock for yes, 2 for no, and so on. Mr. Splitfoot's modus operandi was a sign that the spirit world had either mirrored a people's invention or had been inadvertently intersected with, creating a portal of communication between worlds. In a world where matter had been regarded as inert, the physical plane became animated once again when objects literally began to speak, the telegraph uttering messages from the dead. Virtually every new technology invented in the span of the next 100 years or so was developed as a means of reaching the spirit realm. With the conception of the telephone, the prospect of reaching the invisible world was imminent. It offered an electronic form of spirit communication in which even those without the inborn gift of mediumship could contact loved ones in the world beyond. This new technology would forever change both communication and the way these people understood the universe. The telephone, like the telegraph, suddenly allowed for instant disembodied communication. Now, people of the earth could communicate unencumbered by space and time. They believed that the human spirit was made of tiny entities that could never be increased, decreased, or destroyed. These thought particles exited the body after death and swirled about the ether, at times coming in contact with the living. Voices were not lost but undulated throughout the universe on sound waves. They believed they could potentially reach these entities by building an apparatus that could communicate with the spirit realm and capture every word ever spoken throughout human history. They even hoped someday to hear and store the last words of Jesus on the cross. Their discovery that the human spirit continues after death and has the power to communicate led to the birth of a new religion and a new age of human history. With the dawning of the Information Age came a rapid transformation of the landscape, wherein the physical apparatuses to communicate with the spirit realm were erected. Internet was constructed along the sacred paths of railroads, across mountains and deserts. Whether they are naturally occurring fields of magnetic force, ancient rivers of glacial melt, or lines of mystical power, is a matter of debate. Some research has indicated that power lines are also perhaps aligned astronomically in accordance with certain comet paths, suggesting a connection with a larger cosmic timescale and worlds beyond Earth. Perhaps they were in communication with beings, living or dead, from other planets and galaxies. where these lines intersected or rose close to the surface, could be detected by diviners and people perceptive to the elemental forces that align their world. At these crossroads, data centers were built. Data centers were the locus of Internet. The word data is originally Latin for things given or granted. We believe these massive structures served as archives for the information delivered from the spirit realm. Unfortunately, all we have to understand these people and their most ambitious project are the material remains of a digital culture. Any remnants of the spiritual information, or things given, that were stored in these structures have long since been erased or obscured. The data centers were constructed through geomantic divination practices. Each building aligns with the 4 cardinal directions and faces a body of water to the south. Only people who knew how to work with the physical world, in order to create access to the spiritual, were endowed with the responsibility to maintain these portals. They were heavily locked and guarded, using high walls and the natural landscape to remain shrouded from nefarious visitors. Unfortunately, many sacred lands were destroyed during the digital reformation. Remnants of pre-information age markings can still be seen at Lago Marcino, near the ruins of the Reno Sparks Internet excavation site in what was the state of Nevada. Could it be that these earlier petroglyphs predicted the coming of the fiber optic cables that would soon take control of the land? There is no question that the forces of the natural world were used to power Internet. Sun and wind were gathered to power the electric currents. Water cooled the storage machines that generated heat with the constant incoming information. And the receiving and storage machines were built from Earth. Internet was the result of an alchemical emergence of the 5th element from the fusion of the 4. Internet was both a place, yet no place. The architecture is embedded in the landscape and dug into the earth, yet it extends to another sphere of the cosmos, one that exists in what cosmologists of the information age called the ether. In this cosmological diagram, we notice data center and underground cables are at once the axis mundi of the universe and mere physical infrastructure to access the primum mobile and ultimately ether, or paradise. When considering Sun, we can perhaps glimpse a view into the reason for the mysterious disappearance of this civilization. Every 11 and 1100 years, there is a cycle of increased sunspot activity. Every 11 and 1/10 years, there is a cycle of mass human excitability. If the solar flares got big enough, it could wipe out all telecommunications. A mass blackout would occur. Within hours, they'd lose all ability to communicate. Machines equipped with generators would run out of fossil fuels within days. If connection with ether during this solar event was strong enough, it is possible that matter could be displaced into the spirit realm, the portals no longer able to provide access back to Earth. Or perhaps this was the goal all along. We may never know what happened to the people of the information age, or what wisdom was stored within their sacred Internet. At least for today, it remains one of Earth's most enduring mysteries.